There we go. So welcome everybody. My name is Pablo Galvez. If you haven't met me before, I'm based out of Calgary, Canada, and I do this thing every first and third Thursday of the month called Agent Upgrade. It's something that I designed to be able to share the knowledge and the experience that I've gained over the years in real estate with as many agents as possible to elevate the business, elevate people's basically upgrade skills, upgrade their income, upgrade their lifestyle. Hopefully, this will make you a better agent and a better person overall. Today is really, truly one of my favorite topics because for years and years, I operated as a buyer's agent and I learned a tremendous amount. My best year in real estate, I did 56 buyer sales myself that year. So if you can imagine, that's one closing every week in buyer sales, averaging $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 per deal. It was a good year to be working with buyers. Now, I learned a lot because I'll tell you what, it wasn't worth it at the time. At the end of it, I had all this money, but I had lost my mind, literally. And it was a really, really challenging time. And I learned a lot of lessons out of that. So what I'm going to hopefully share with you today is, I had mental breakdowns. I worked with my coach, my real estate coach, my life partner, Simone, my other coach. And we worked on systems, we worked on processes, we worked on ways that we can maximize and make it more efficient to work with high volumes of buyers. But we're going to go through the basics, and I'm going to share with you a lot of tips and techniques that I use when working with buyers. And I think you're really going to find this very, very useful and helpful. And at the end of it, I'm going to also be sharing some great documents for you that you're going to be able to use and implement into your business. So let's get started. All right. So just a little background. So Simone Russo is my wife and partner. The two of us sell real estate together. She is truly, really the superstar in our relationship. She is an absolutely amazing rock star listing agent. She works with sellers exclusively. And I work with buyers, and I work with some of our builders, and I work with, I negotiate the contracts, and I'm kind of the guy I'm the man behind the woman, if you will. And so I'm a really good person to learn from because I'm kind of like the coach, the trainer for my wife, Simone, and I've propelled her to superstardom. And I can easily do the same, I believe, for anyone else. It just requires some motivation and some training and somebody behind you going, come on, you can do it, right? So we've both been top producing agents. In our best year, we did a little over 125 transactions. And in our worst years, we were in the 50 transaction range. So, we're still high producers in the world of real estate, but certainly with COVID-19 and everything that's going on today, things have slowed down considerably, but we're still selling homes, which is, it's amazing to see. Obviously a good sign that the economy still kind of got some legs in it. So I'm happy to see that things are selling. I've just put 4 homes under contract in the last week. So it's been busy out there. So today I'm a realtor, but I'm also a trainer and a mentor. I mentor a lot of agents, and I really enjoy doing this. So for people who think, oh, I'm bothering Pablo by calling him, no, I really enjoy doing this. I enjoy helping. I used to be a coach, like a real estate coach, and that was something that I didn't really enjoy doing because it was a set time every week and I had to be at a certain place. But when it's random calls, I much prefer that. So at any time, if you've got issues, you need help, let me know. I'm here to help. That's what I do. So today, what we're going to talk about is where to find buyers. Where are they hiding? What to say to them once you found them. And then, of course, the buyer consultation meeting, how that should go. The property search, how you get that all set up. The showings, any kind of tips for the showings that I've done before. And of course, the offers and negotiation. And as usual, I've always got some bonus tips, bonus tips at the end of this. And I'm going to share with you based on my previous experience selling lots and lots of homes. So why do we talking about buyers versus listings? Because I think if you've been in real estate for any period of time, you've probably heard that listings are king, right? You take over the listings, you take over the inventory, you control the market. Listings are easier, and that is true. However, buyers are a good start for people. So when you're getting started in real estate, it can be a great place to start, right? And why is it a great place to start? Because A, You don't have to have a listing presentation. You don't have to have as much skills. It's a little easier to work with a buyer. I always called working with a buyer being like a personal shopper. You're just helping them buy a house. And all that takes is showing up and getting in the way of someone buying their home, just being that middle person in there. So the skill level usually for getting into being a buyer's agent or working with buyers, the entry level is pretty low, if you know what I mean. Now, what I'm going to try and implore on you is that if you build your skills, you build your schedule, you build your time, you build your goals, you're going to be able to turn that kind of a hobby into a business, because really you can breathe for a year and probably get a few buyers to buy homes with you, right? It's not that difficult. Now, this next question that I've got on here, do you do both? This is an interesting thing. When Simone and I first got into real estate, we went to one of our mentors, just a person that we really look up to, sells hundreds and hundreds of homes a year, tremendously successful agent. And we were probably a few months in the business, really naive and just kind of excited and alive and ready to take over and pumped up. And we said, so, what do we do to be successful in real estate? And she said, well, are you working with buyers or sellers? And we went, we work with anybody who has a pulse. We work with anybody, right? And she said, well, think about that. And she didn't really get into the specifics, but it always lingered in my mind. And what I've learned over 10 plus years of selling real estate is that the act of helping a seller list and sell a property is radically different from helping a buyer find and purchase a home. Radically different. Probably the only similarities are the fact that they're both houses, and at the very end of the day, all the conveyancing and paperwork is very similar. The whole process is completely different, okay? So that's why I want you to kind of think about this, and I'll plant the seed. What I've seen very successful, now Simone and I have done this, and we divided and conquered from probably about 6 months in. We were both, there's Simone and I both trying to get listings and trying to get buyers and trying to do everything. When you're a do everything person, you're never going to do one thing very well. So we divided at that time. We said, okay, Simone's going to be a listing agent only. She's not going to show properties. She's not going to work with buyers. I'm going to work with all the buyers and I'll do all the showings and everything, but I'm not going to try and get ready for listing presentations and go on listing presentations and call the sellers and do price reductions and all of that work, right? Because they were two completely different businesses. So think about this. Is there a person that you can partner with in real estate? And I'm not saying to do this, but consider this, because if there's a person that you can partner with in real estate and you say, you know what, I love working with buyers. I think it's great. I get to shop with them. I like the process. I like helping them find a home. And then you get somebody else who just goes, I love listing and selling properties. That's all I want to do. Maybe you could actually use the strengths of each skill set, partner up, divide and conquer, and share the profits, right? It is a model that can work really, really well. If you ever want to hear more details about the specifics of how Simone and I did that and how we passed off a buyer to a seller and a seller to a buyer, give me a call anytime. I'd be happy to go over that with you. This was the quote that came up today. Every day I've got this, I call it the bathroom quotes. And so this is in my bathroom. There's a peel a day calendar and it's got a quote. This is today's quote. I just loved it. Beginnings are only difficult without any action. So it is so true when you're starting out in real estate. And I don't know how many times I've seen even recently on the internet forums and for real estate and whatnot, people going, I'm struggling to get a start. I'm struggling to find buyers. I'm struggling to find sellers. I'm really having a hard time getting more than 2 or 3 transactions a year. Like, what actions are you doing? So if you're not taking action, it's going to be a hard start. It's going to be a long start, and it's probably going to be a failure. You have to actually get started. You have to turn the gears and keep moving, or you're not going to actually get started. So take the action, find activities that are going to lead you to more production, and focus on those activities. And that's going to be, we're going to talk about those activities. If you look at the typical sales process, it goes very simply like this. You get a lead, then you pre-qualify them, then you do a needs assessment, and then you have a sale. And very rarely would you ever skip the steps in between, right? So unless you're a retail company and you're selling flowers and somebody comes in and says, hi, I'd like to buy some flowers. And you say, here they are. they're $17.99 and they give you the cash. That's transactions. That's not sales, right? Sales is where you actually go through a process with someone, pre-qualify them, do a needs assessment, make a sale. In real estate, it's very simple and it's very similar to that. You get a lead. Somehow you get a lead. Sometimes you find a lead. Sometimes a lead comes to you. Then you do it with buyers. You do a buyer consultation meeting. Then you do some viewings. Then you have an offer and you negotiate it. And then you have your conditions and your closing. So we're going to talk about those steps and all the tips that I've used in the years to make those steps more efficient. And just so you know, if you miss this and you have to leave early or whatever, that's okay. I am recording this and I'm going to put it up for everybody afterwards. So don't worry about staying the whole time if you can't make it. Hopefully you can, because watching this live, you're going to get a lot more out of it. So where can you find buyers? There's lots of sources for buyers. And I'm not really going to, because I do talk about lead generation in one of the other modules and I do that at detail. But you can go to open houses. That's where I found most of my clients, is open houses, online leads, door knocking. You could talk to renters in a building and see if they want to buy. You can talk to your past clients, or if you don't have past clients, even just your sphere of influence. And if you don't know what your sphere of influence is, this is everyone in your circle that knows you, knows your name. So if I were to talk to your accountant, for example, or bookkeeper, or someone who does your taxes for you and say, do you know Jacqueline? Oh, of course I know Jacqueline. She's great. Excellent. So that's a sphere of influence. They know you, you know them. These are people that you should be networking with to try and get more real estate business. Or you can join a team. You could become a buyer's agent on a team. Usually you give up a little bit more of your commission split, but they help you with the leads and the training, right? So there's lots of ways on finding more buyers. The next step, once you find the buyers, okay, and I do talk about lead generation a lot, so I'm not going to get into the details of that, but I'm going to help you a little bit with some of the things on what to say, because the great thing about real estate, it was one of my favorite things about real estate is, well, two things. One, there's a ton of money to be made. It's like the ceiling is so far up, most people can't even jump and touch it. Okay. It is really high. You can make $1 million, you can make $2 million, you can make $3 million, $10 million a year selling real estate. And one of the reasons is the commission value is so high. People can make $5,000, $6,000, $10,000, $15,000 per sale. And almost everyone you talk to is either a potential client or knows someone who would be a potential client. So there's leads everywhere you look, and you have to have this abundance mentality when looking at leads. But then you find somebody, and this is where most agents stumble and struggle, is what do I say to them? Hi, I'm a realtor, or you wear the little pin with the balloon or something on there, and that way people hopefully will come up to you and say, hey, are you a realtor? I need to buy a house, right? Doesn't really happen that way. So we have to be proactive. We have to be finding people every single day, looking for people. Use scripts and dialogues. Now, you might say to me, Pablo, I hate scripts. They make me sound like a robot. You know, I've tried it before. I tried using a script and it didn't sound like me. I say, well, what do you sound like? Well, I don't talk like that. I go, well, is it working for you? Well, no, I'm really struggling. Great. Well, maybe try something else. Right? So if it's not working, maybe you have to start using some of the scripts and dialogues. I was one of those people who resisted scripts and dialogues at the beginning. I believe most people do. But I can tell you without a doubt, the top agents in the world are all using scripts and dialogues. The top salespeople in the world are all using scripts and dialogues. So what you want to do with scripts and dialogues, you want to find them. I'm going to give some to you. Then you want to memorize and internalize them. Now, memorizing is an easy one. I always say this is like being an actor. An actor has lines, they have a script. Now, if Brad Pitt or who's one of those crazy actors that Steve Buscemi, you know Steve Buscemi, the crazy rat face kind of guy? So, and I'm going off cuff here, but if Brad Pitt reads a line and Steve Buscemi reads a line, they could both be the exact same line, but they come across with their own personality. Is that right? That's because they internalize the lines. They don't just memorize them and spit them out. And the same thing with real estate. So Randy or Helen or Fernando, they might have a different way of saying lines. They may have a different way of saying the script to people, but it's the exact same words. Does that make sense? So memorize and internalize them. That will make them yours, and it'll make it sound much more natural and much more like you would say it. Okay. Practice the scripts with others. If you're into role playing and practicing, reach out, because one of our agents has a whole role play WhatsApp mastermind group where they role play daily in the mornings usually, and they link up role play partners and they role play scripts. It's a really great group to be a part of. Her name is Cheryl, and she does a great job organizing that, and it's just a really great way to continue to build your skills. Skills are going to be the number one thing that will keep you going in this business and help you outlast the ones that fail. So let's talk about my first script, okay? This is called the buyer lead conversion script, or I call it the buyer introduction script. This is the first script that you need to know when you're first meeting a potential buyer. So whether it's an open house or anywhere where someone says, yeah, I'm actually thinking of buying a house. You go, oh my gosh, I've got a potential lead, a client. I'm so excited, right? And you just simply, you can start with the small talk if you want. Oh, where do you live now? I live over here. Great. Oh, you're looking for a home in blank neighborhood. That's great. Okay. Well, may I take you through the process that I use in helping buyers like yourself find an exceptional home? Okay. Almost exactly. So, and if they say no, your conversation's done, right? If they don't want to hear what you have to say, that may not be the client that you want. But of course, they're going to say, sure, great. Well, have you been to a lender or a mortgage broker to achieve financing pre-qualification in writing? No, we haven't. No problem. I'm going to ask my lender, Jim, to give you a call as soon as possible to discuss with you all the financing options. He's going to answer all of your questions as well as give you the confidence that you'll want in purchasing a home today. Can I have him call you in the next few hours? No, we're okay. We're really good with our financing. We're going to be fine. We make a lot of money, right? I can appreciate that. And a lot of people believe that they'll be just fine. However, in this market, and I always use in this market, it doesn't matter what market, but any market. In this market, we're seeing a lot of mortgage applications being turned down, even for people with 50% down payment and strong income. So the banks are really getting finicky. So may I have Jim call you this afternoon just to have a firm approval? And if they say no, maybe that's not the clients that you want to deal with. So if they say yes, you continue. Great. Once you and Jim have finalized the pre-qualification, I'm going to meet with you and go through a number of questions about the location, the price range, and the type of home that you're looking for, as well as answer any questions that you may have about the buying process. Now, once we've determined the type of home that you want to purchase, we're going to create an MLS search together so we can see all the available homes for sale that meet your criteria and the recent sales. Now, using this information, we'll work together to select the best 3 to 5 homes that meet your criteria, and we're going to schedule a viewing tour of these homes. So far, does this make sense to you? And if they say, yeah, it makes sense, okay. Or if maybe they say, well, 3 to 5 homes, what if I want to see 20 or 30 homes? Well, you know what? Once we sit down, we're going to go through all of those homes together. You won't need to see that many homes because that's what I'm going to help you do is narrow it down. Does that make sense? Sure. Number 4, if one of these homes work for you, are you prepared to write an offer on that house? No, I'm not. Why is that? Well, I need to see every home in the community before I make an informed decision. Great, we're going to talk about that, right? Have you ever had that type of buyer before? I need to see everything before I can make a decision. It's like, before I buy a candy in the candy store, I need to try one of every single candy. Or can you pick maybe the top 3 or 4 and select the best one out of that, right? We don't have to try every candy in the candy drawer. Now, if yes, continue. I'm going to negotiate that contract acting in your best interest. And if accepted, I'm going to assist with arranging a property inspection and any other due diligence. And we're going to work together every day towards the closing. Now, based on the process that I use in helping folks like you find a home, do you still want me to proceed by having Jim call you, or do you prefer to work with another agent? Now, I've used this script and of course I memorize it, I internalize it, and I get it down to exactly the way I want to say it. I've used this script at open houses, et cetera, to get clients to work with me. What they say is that it sounds professional. It sounds like you know what you're talking about. You're not just randomly, because what do most agents do, right? They meet somebody at an open house. Oh yeah, we're actually looking for a home. Oh, do you have a realtor yet? No, I don't have a realtor. Oh, we should go and look at some homes. Okay. Do you want to go out tomorrow? Yeah, we'd like to go out tomorrow and look at some homes. Okay. Why don't what kind of home are you looking for? Right? It's all random and they ask these questions and they try and get together, but they're not qualified. So we're going to try and get through the funnel. And trust me, I've done this too, that I've been there. We're going to try and get people through the funnel in a way that's going to allow you to have more sanity and freedom. Here's your online lead script. So if you have an online campaign, and I know Helen's an expert with online leads, this is my online lead script. I simply message them back right away. As soon as they message me online, within a few minutes, whether it's automated or not, hi, thanks for reaching out, or thanks for inquiring, or thanks for registering on my page, whatever the intro has to be. Do you have time for a quick call? That's it. Because you're going to want to try and get people on the phone. It's going to be a much higher conversion rate. It's going to be a much better conversation, and it's got a much better flow than trying to text and message people back and forth. Do you have time for a quick call? Right? It doesn't even sound like an automated robot thing, right? So they say, no, I'm busy right now. Great. When would be a better time? Never. I don't want to talk to someone. Great. Now you don't have to worry about that one anymore, right? Or maybe tomorrow. Great. What time tomorrow? Set up a time to have a call, and then you can go right back to this and use the buyer introduction script. So you ask them a couple of questions. What are you looking for? Oh, we'd like to book a showing for this property. Now I'm going to talk to you later about how to handle that one. I want to book a showing for your property that you have listed. That's a different conversation. That's not the buyer introduction script. So the buyer introduction script is used when you have a new buyer that you're meeting, and you want to have that initial buyer meeting with them, and you want to go through a process with them rather than the person who's just calling on, like a sign call on one of your listings. Now, if you get a sign call, or you get a person who's calling you randomly off the internet, or you get a referral, a buyer referral who's coming into you, here's a pre-qualification script that you can use, okay? So thanks again. And I'll tell you what's really interesting. As things got really busy for me, my assistant asked all these questions. My assistant would call the person and go through all these questions and then hand me the lead already pre-qualified. So they would pre-qualify for me. So you can have someone do this for you. I know that's an advanced lesson, but just so you know, this can be done. So thanks again for contacting our office about our listing at blank. I'm excited about helping you find a home, and I'd like to take a few minutes, ask you about the home that you'd like to purchase in order for me to help you best. Are there any other areas that you're interested in other than this area? What's important to you about this area? How long have you been looking for a home? Have you seen any homes that you like? Can you describe them for me? And that question, have you seen any homes that you like? Can you describe them for me? I've had this question asked, and people just went, yeah, actually, I saw this home on the weekend. It was an open house, and my friend said that you're an agent, and I'd like to just write an offer on it. Oh, great. What's the address? Let's write an offer. Or I've had a lot of times people will call you saying they're looking to buy a house, and you'll start to go through the criteria, and they're asking about all different kind of houses in different neighborhoods. And I say, is there one home that you've seen that you like? And it's amazing how many times they just go, yes, there's this home we've had our eye on, but we're just not sure if it's overpriced, or we're not sure if it's a good deal, or we're not sure if it's the right, if there's any inspections or anything required. Brian, you have a question there?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. Did I miss it? This is on the phone when you're actually talking to them?
This is on the phone, yeah. You'll learn that I do everything on the phone or in person. I really try and stay away from emails or texts or anything like that, because it's a lower form of communication. Like the translation, it gets lost in translation. So I stick to the phone. So if I get a buyer lead on the website, a registration or something, right? It's you pick up the phone, you call them, or if you send them the quick message, when's a good time to call? You set up a time to call and you go, great, so what areas are you interested in? Is there any other areas that you're interested in? What's important to you about the area? And you just go through all of these questions. Now, you might be thinking, oh my God, I'm trying to screenshot this. I'm going to make all this available. Don't worry. These are going to be downloads at the end. I'll show you where to get them, and you can download all of these and use them, print them, whatever, memorize, internalize. But don't worry. These are all going to be downloads at the end, so you don't need to try and screenshot and write these down, okay? So these are just the questions that you go through in pre-qualifying a buyer. Now, if you're at an open house, This is my open house script. This is like golden. I've used this for years and it works so well. So the first thing I do when people walk in the door, and next week is open house, or 2 weeks from now is open house, so I'm going to go into detail. People walk in the door, the very first question I go, hello, did you see this home on MLS or were you just driving by? And what that does is it separates them into one of two categories. Oh, we were just in the neighborhood walking the dog. We thought we'd come in and have a look. Excellent. Now I know that they're neighbors, or that they're maybe not qualified, or they don't really probably want to buy this home. They just like looking at homes, which is fair. And they may be looking at other homes. Or, yes, we saw the open house advertised on MLS or on your website or wherever, and we decided to come by. Great. Those are people that already know about the home because they've looked at the details on MLS. I don't need to go over the details of the home. And they may actually want to buy this home. So right away, I can categorize people with that one simple question. Okay. Now, if they did see it on the MLS, I just continue. If they haven't seen it on MLS, I usually just highlight, great, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. It's new construction and it's selling for $649,000. That includes GST. That's how I just give them the nuts and bolts of the house. Great. And I let them see the house. I don't barrage them with questions. I let them see the house. I let them go upstairs, let them go downstairs. And then when they come back, I ask them this simple question. So where do you guys live now? And I stop and I let them answer the question, right? And they say, oh, we're in Hillhurst. And I said, great, Hillhurst. What type of home are you looking for? Oh, we're looking for a 2-story. Great, okay. Would you need to sell your home in order to buy something else? Yeah, we probably would. Great, okay. And are you currently working with any other agents? And they say either no or yes. If they say yes, we're working with an agent, I go, great, are you under contract with another agent? And if so, that's fine. And I let them work with their other agent. I'm not going to try and steal them, right? But if they're not under contract, folks, I simply say, great, well, are you familiar with the techniques that I use in helping buyers like yourself find an exceptional home? You see the buyer script just goes right into there, slides right in. And they go, no, we're not familiar with the techniques that you use. And I, great. So I go through the entire buyer script with them, right? Very first step is we're going to have my mortgage broker, Jim, give you a call to make sure you're pre-qualified. Can I have Jim call you today before or after 4 o'clock? Oh yeah, 4 o'clock's fine, right? So now I roll right into it. And then at the end of this buyer script, if they say, yeah, we would like to work with you, I said, when would be the best time to show you properties? Would Wednesday at 4 o'clock be okay with you? Great, I'll schedule with you and confirm. So I schedule, now you'll see like, wait a second, you're not doing like a buyer consult meeting, you're just gonna go out and take them on showings. Of course not. So I scheduled the showings right away because I've already gotten a little bit of information from them. The next step is I'm going to schedule a buyer consult meeting. Okay, so this is where we convert the lead to a client. So this is the most critical aspect of working with buyers, is being able to convert these people from random leads that come in to actual clients that you're working with. Okay, now I have a policy called one free ride. Now this came, if you want to know the background, which you probably don't, but if you want to know the background, it comes from when I was a kid. I remember going to a convenience store and there was a sign on the wall and it said one free ride in a police car for anyone caught shoplifting. And I thought that was kind of funny. And so I have this one free ride policy. If somebody calls on one of my listings, or if I meet someone at an open house and they say, well, I'm interested in this other property, I'd like to have a look at it. I don't go, well, first we have to have a buyer meeting. I'm not going to sideline a potential transaction where I can skip a step just by having to force them into a buyer meeting, right? Now, the buyer meeting is critical to the long-term success as a buyer's agent, but you get a sign call and you try and force them into a buyer meeting before going to see your listing, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. So the one free ride is I'm going to meet a buyer at a listing once without any pre-meeting, without a very little pre-qualification. And then I'm going to do the buyer script at that time. So somebody calls on one of my listings. They say, I'd like to see 123 Home Street. I'll usually just pre-qualify. Are you working with another agent right now? Or do you prefer, this is my line. If you want to write this down, this is what I always use. Are you working with another real estate agent, or would you prefer to work with the listing agent directly? Okay. And what that does, if I say, are you working with a real estate agent? Usually the answer is yes. When I say, are you working with another real estate agent or would you prefer to work with the listing agent directly? A lot of them say, I'd rather work directly with the listing agent. So then I'll ask if they're under contract with another realtor. If they say no, great, let's show the house. Now, I'm not going to get into super details on this. Just go and show them the house. And then you do the buyer script and you make them yours. Okay. Your goal at that meeting is going to be to set the appointment. This is the buyer consultation appointment. I'm going to talk about that next. And you really want to be asking a lot of questions. This is not an opportunity for you as a real estate agent to spew all the benefits of working with you. Okay. It's all about the buyer. It's all about them. So you want to be asking them a lot of questions. Okay. You're going to be getting to know them, getting to understand what their needs are. This is not talking about how successful you are, right? Just like the listing presentation, we don't go into all about me. We go into all about them, okay? We're asking them questions, and we're only going to work with qualified buyers. This is absolutely, I'll tell you right now, when you are starting out or you've got very little deals on the table, you work with everybody, right? It's like, well, I don't know. It's a long shot. This guy called me. He sounds like he's about 12 years old and he wants to buy a $3 million property. And I guess might as well go and have a look at it. So you get all dressed up and you spend half your day getting excited about it. And you got the comps pulled up on the computer and you print it, and then you're bringing all these things. You clean your car because you don't want to show up an ugly car. And you show up and it is a 12-year-old kid and he's like a joke, right? It happens. It happens to everybody. It's happened to me so many times that I've had to put in policies and procedures to make sure it doesn't happen. So I only work with qualified buyers. And what that allows you to do is spend more time finding qualified buyers. So rather than running around with unqualified buyers, you're going to spend your time looking for more qualified buyers. Hopefully that makes sense. And if you have questions as we go along here, feel free. What Brian did is in Zoom, there's a raise your hand feature, and you can raise your hand. And if you have a question, just raise your hand on the Zoom there, and I'll get a little pop-up that'll say you have a question. I don't mind answering questions. So the buyer consultation meeting, this is one of my favorite things that ever, when my coach forced me to start doing buyer consultation meetings, my business went through the roof. Okay, this is really awesome. Number one, you're going to want to really ask a lot of questions so you can understand what those buyers want, and conversely, what they don't want. Okay. There's always this thing of like, I want to help them get what they want and when they want it. How can you know what they want and when they want it if you're not asking a lot of questions? You have to be asking a tremendous amount of questions. Fortunately, I've got a form that I'm going to walk you through that will allow you to ask a lot of questions, okay? What this buyer meeting does is it gives you a sense of comfort because you're pre-qualifying these buyers. You're going to now leave that meeting either going, I don't want to work with these people, and then you can let them go, or I can't wait to work with these people. These people are motivated. They're qualified. We're working together. I'm excited. I'm excited about working with these buyers. And it's going to give those buyers a level of comfort that you're a professional, that you're put together, that you're not just another random agent who, like, let's face it, most buyer's agents, all they do is lock and unlock doors and turn lights on and off. I mean, that is really the extent of the buyer's agent. This puts it into a process and it makes you professional, and it gives people this exceptional real estate experience that is unparalleled, okay? So the buyer consult meeting is great. What I like to do is the first part of the meeting is I go through the needs assessment, and I'll show you the form that I go through. And then I say, great, the next step is we're going to set up the MLS search together, okay? I will have usually a computer or a screen on the wall or something, and I'll go through setting up, like I'll show them the MLS system in the background. We have Matrix in our market. I'll go through there in detail with the clients and set up their MLS search together because I have more criteria than they do on the public MLS. So I say, well, do we want a 2-story? Would we look at bungalows? Would we look at side splits? Oh, no, I don't want any side splits. Okay, great. We go through every little point together. We set up the search. And now the next step is we look at the search, and there might be 100 matches. Great. We need to fine tune it, right? Would you really want a home in this price range, or do you want to try and cap it at this? How can we fine tune it? Oh, really? I only want 2 stories. I don't want a bungalow. Great. Let's fine tune it. We get it down to say 10 to 12 active listings. And then we go through each of those 12 listings. And then every single one of them, we look at the location on the map, we look at the yard, we look at the finishes, we look at everything. And I ask those buyers a lot of questions about that home. What do you think about this home? What do you think about the finishing? Do you think it's something that you could improve? Do you think that this is the type of home? Is this the location that you want? I'm asking them about the homes because I really want to get to know their taste and their likes, right? So I'm doing a deep dive here. And at the end of it, usually what the result will be is that there'll be 1, 2, or maybe even 3 spectacular options that come out of that. The rest are going to be, you did say that you didn't want to be backing onto a major road. This one fronts onto a major road. Do you really want to be fronting onto a road with the bus there? No, we really don't when we've got other options. Great. So let's focus on these ones. Then I just say, well, let's go and see those 3 or 4 properties. See, I get it down to 3 or 4. And I said, let's go see those 3 or 4 properties. And we schedule a time right there. Would tomorrow work or the next day? Let's figure out a time. And we'll go out and we'll see those 3 to 4 properties. More often than not, because we've gone through that process and we've narrowed everything down and we've looked at everything else, one of those 3 or 4 properties is going to be the one for them, okay? This is because we've done the process of elimination. So the most analytical buyer loves this process because we've eliminated everything together, okay? Now, the last thing that I do once we've discussed all of that, and I say, I've got a package of information for you here. The first thing that I've got in there is not a bra. Don't put bras in there, you guys. Don't put real bras in your buyer package. But in there, I've got a nice folder. I've got a buyer representation agreement. If you use those, great. If not, you should. And it's like a listing contract for buyers. And I simply explain this is, I have to have this. It's a mandatory form. Like if you're working with a buyer's agent, right? I say, so are we working together? Like I'll give them the excited, are we working together? Yeah, great. So I've got some mandatory paperwork. Now, what this does is it outlines the working relationship that we're going to have. I always feel it's important to have full disclosure. So this not only talks about my obligations to you, which I have to be honest to you, I have to act in your best interest, right? And if there's any conflicts of interest, I have to disclose those in advance, right? So if I know the owner of the property, I have to let you know, right? And it also outlines your obligations to me. Oh, what are my obligations? Do I have to pay for this? No, the great news is the fee is going to come from the seller, and this outlines how that happens. So it's all in writing in advance. It just says that you're going to communicate with me, and if your criteria changes, you'll just let me know. So it just says that you're going to communicate with me and that you're working with me during this period of time, and I've set it up for 6 months or whatever it is, right? And so I've got the buyer representation agreement in there, and I always say, and the other thing I put in here is a sample purchase contract, okay? And the sample purchase contract is here for your review because I always feel like when you're writing an offer, it's an emotional time, you're excited, you got all this stuff going on, you don't need to be trying to figure out a purchase contract at the same time, right? So if you have questions about how the purchase works or the deposits or anything like that, we're going to go over that right now in the purchase contract. So if you have any questions, you can just let me know anytime and we'll deal with that before making an offer. Sounds good, right? And then you might throw in some of your marketing stuff or a first-time buyer info package or whatever else you want to kind of put in there. But it really gives people a nice introduction to working with you, right? Makes them feel better. So this is the buyer information form that I created. This has been absolute gold for me. I'll walk you through this, and again, you can download this at the end. At the top, I put it's called a new contact information form. Again, I'm going to be filling this out in front of my clients. I don't need it to say lead sheet, right? Or big dollar signs and how much this lead's going to make. No. So it's nice and clean. It's simple. And I pull this out with my clipboard and I go, great. So I've got usually the date filled out at the top, the source, open house, referral, etc. I've got the source in there so that I can track that later. And then below that, I put whoever the primary contact is going to be. I usually ask, who should I contact first about this? And one of them will usually point to the other, right? Talk to him or talk to her. And I put their contact information first. I've got their full contact, email, where are they living right now? Are they renting or owning? Do they plan to sell? I've got all that information in here. Then I put their spouse or partner's information below. And then I've got their search criteria broken down from single family to condo. You may need to alter this in your market depending on what you call things, strata, condo. And then we go from attached, detached, bungalow, two-story, apartment, townhouse, villa, etc. What communities they're interested in, what price range, number of bedrooms, bathrooms, parking, condition. I always go when I go to the condition of the home, I say, are you looking for something that's new or renovated, or are you looking for a fixer-upper? And a lot of people usually will say something like, well, we're looking for something new or renovated, but if it's a fixer-upper and it's a good price and we can this and that. And I go, oh, have you ever done any renovations before? No, not really, but I think we'd be open to making something our own. I go, okay. So would that be, are you going to buy something, do a full renovation while you're living in it? And usually once I do a few questions, I can kind of tell, right? They're like, yeah, I'd probably rather find something that's already done, right? I usually ask them, if you can find something that's already done, would you prefer that? Because trying to find something that's a fixer-upper, especially for new home buyers, is often, they don't have the vision to be able to see that. Does that make sense? So I go through this whole thing with them, and I get them to sign the BRA right there, and I give them a copy of it, and I leave them with this whole package, and we've set out an appointment to go see the first few homes. That is how you start a buyer appointment. I know once I've gone through that process to that point, I haven't even shown a house yet, that is going to be money in the bank. I'm confident that is going to be money in the bank at that point. So next steps is we talk about the communication. So what kind of communication do they prefer? We get lazy as real estate agents, and as technology evolves, and I know it's easier to text people sometimes. I know it's easier to DM and message and Facebook message and WhatsApp your clients and everything. And that's certainly becoming more apropos, if you will. However, the best form of communication is in person. Second best form of communication is, say, Zoom, where you can see me and hear me, right? Third form of communication is going to be on the phone. You get the verbal cues. You can hear the intuitions, the little nuances in the voice. Really, really important for that kind of communication. Written communication alone would be almost as bad as just sending a video message with no, right? It's very ineffective to just have written communication. I always like to have the phone. I pick up the phone, I call them, and it's a much better conversation. If you're having a really hard time with someone, I just ask people, I really like to pick up the phone and talk to people. When are you most available? Oh, evenings or weekends or something, so I'll pick up the phone in the evening and weekend. But if I have to get a hold of them really quickly and they're at work, I always make sure I know how to get a hold of them really quickly at work, right? The great property just comes up. Hot buyers. So hot, warm, and cold buyers. We all know in sales, right? The funnel. So if you've got hot buyers, these are the people that you're going to be communicating with them daily, right? Whether there's property searches coming out, new listings coming out, confirming appointments, you got to be on them daily, every single day for a hot buyer, okay? Warm buyers. These are the buyers who I'm going to classify someone who you've taken out to look at the 3 or 4 hot properties that were on the market. Neither of them really worked for them, and none of the other properties on the market would work. So now these are buyers that are motivated, they're qualified, but we haven't found the right house for them yet. You're going to communicate with them at least once a week. Cold buyers. Why are you working with cold buyers? I mean, monthly, maybe. Refer them out, maybe. You don't need a whole bunch of cold buyers in there that are maybe someday, maybe 3 months, 8 months down the road, maybe. Spend your time looking for more hot buyers and warm buyers. Those are the ones you want to be spending your time on, not trying to send pumpkins to cold buyers. Trust me. So we set up the property search. Now, I wrote here 95% of the work is done from your computer. When I did 56 buyer sales, and that was a crazy year, I showed on average 2 properties for sale. And I'll caveat this by, it was a rising market. So it was a lot of competing offers, a lot of winning competing offers, but it was not a lot of property viewings. I would narrow it down and I'd do most of my work on the computer. Let me share with you how I do that. Number 1, you already saw the buyer consultation process, right? Number 2, I got emails all the time that were like this. Pablo, they would respond back to an auto email or something, or they'd see a listing that came up on MLS and they'd say, Pablo, we just saw this listing come up. We'd like to go see it today at 6:00, right? How often have you had that call, right? It's a very common buyer call. I saw this property. I'd like to go and have a look at it. And what do we do as agents? Sure. Or 6:00 doesn't work. We could do 7:00. Okay, 7:00. And then you go and see it and they walk in and go, oh my God, there's only 2 bedrooms in this house. Oh no, this doesn't work for us. We've got 4 kids, right? Well, and you sit there left kind of dumbfounded as an agent. Well, why are we looking at a house that's only got 2 bedrooms if you got 4 kids? It's your own fault as an agent. It's your fault because you didn't look it up. So every time I had a request to go look at a property, I would get on the computer, look it up, and I would compare it to the notes, that lead sheet that I had, that buyer information form, compare it to what they were looking for. And I would phone them back, right? And I'd phone them back and I'd say, Susan, I've just scheduling our showing for tonight at 6:00, confirming that. However, as I was looking at it, I noticed, did you see that it's backing onto a busy street? And you did say that you didn't ever want to be backing onto a busy street. Well, yeah, I did see that, but I really like the kitchen and this and that. Okay, when we sat down, you said that was a really important aspect and that the kitchen wasn't as important. Would you really give up living on a busy street for a kitchen? I mean, you could find another home that maybe is on a dream location and that has a really not so nice kitchen. You could renovate it. It would be easy to find, wouldn't it? The location we know is one of the most important things. Is that really what you want to see? And if they insist, absolutely, I love the house. I think the house is the dream house and that street's not that busy anyways. Okay, great. I've pre-qualified them, right? Based on their needs. And now we're going to show the house. But 9 times out of 10, they'll just go, you're right, Pablo. I didn't even really clue into that. You're right. I didn't even look at the number of bedrooms, right? I just love the kitchen. I love the house. So sometimes people get wooed by the pictures. And so really do your research on the computer. You will minimize the amount of time you spend running around showing houses. So the other thing I do is heavy pre-qualification on the phone before I go out and show properties. So today I'm going and showing a property. I did about 3 or 4 phone calls with that client before going out to meet them today because I want to make sure that they're financially pre-qualified, they're not working with another agent, they're comfortable working with the listing agent, and that they don't have a house that needs to be sold first. I asked a lot of those questions, not on the very first call, but when I call back to confirm, and I just got another couple of questions, and I'll ask these pre-qualifying questions to make sure that I'm not wasting my time. Does that make sense? So you can go running around with buyers and get frustrated, but don't call me. Do your research, do the work on the computer, filter, and help people understand what they actually really want before going out and seeing it. And now that we got these virtual tours and stuff, it's even easier, right? Here's my tips. Now you're actually going to go out and show properties, right? Number 1 tip I learned from an early day in real estate is park across the street. Now, not if it's a freeway, a busy street, but if it's a normal community, you park across the street because that gives the buyers a better view of the house as they're walking towards it. It just gives them a nicer feel. So it's a little tip that I use from day one. Love that one. Controversial, I know. I always try and put the buyers in my car if we're doing more than 1 viewing. If we're doing 1 viewing, I'll meet them at the house, no problem. And let me tell you the rationale between, some people say don't put the buyers in your car, it's extra liability and insurance, and now you got these buyers in your car. Like, what's wrong with that? Number 1, it helps you remember to keep your car clean all the time. So you keep your car always clean in case you get some buyers. But the most important reason is this, and I've seen this happen numerous times. You take husband and wife out, they've got a sitter with the kids, and you're going to go out and see 3 or 4 properties. They come and see the first property, then they get back in their car and you get in your car. Hopefully you don't get lost on the way to the next house, which is one thing. But they get in the car, what are they talking about? Did you take the lasagna out for dinner tonight? Susan's got soccer practice tonight. We've got to get back for that. And they're talking about life. They haven't seen each other all day. They're talking about life and issues. Maybe they're arguing. Maybe they're joking around. They're talking about the weekend. Who knows what? They're not focused on the house search. They show up at the next house and they're like, oh yeah, where are we? Oh, this one. Oh yeah. And they have to refocus. And you lose a lot of momentum. This is a sales game, you guys, a sales process. So I keep the buyers in my car because in between, I'm asking them questions about the neighborhoods, about the communities that they like. I'm pointing out things in the community that might be highlights for them. So we're engaged the entire time. And that has always worked way, way better for me. When you're at a house, this is obvious, hopefully, but don't point out the obvious. Here's the kitchen, here's the living room, here's the bathroom, here's the toilet, right? You don't want to be pointing out the obvious, let the people see the house. You don't want to be one of those realtors that kind of follows people around and makes it weird. You're there, though, to help people understand what some of the possibilities are. Oh my gosh, I don't like this kitchen. It's so closed off, right? Well, have you ever considered getting the kitchen renovated? You could open up that wall maybe, and we'd have to talk to an engineer or whatever, but we could open up this wall. And if you had an open concept kitchen here done exactly the way you like, I know you like those white cabinets with black splash, whatever, and you can show the possibilities of that home. Oh, I really don't like this hardwood. Oh, I wish it didn't have this hardwood. Oh, you know what? I actually have a hardwood guy. Probably around $15,000, $20,000. We get all this hardwood ripped up and get brand new engineered hardwood in here. Would that be nice or what? Oh, and if, maybe if we discounted the home by 15 or 20 grand, you could get free hardwood, right? So you're there to show the possibilities, not to point out the obvious. Oops. Maximum 3 to 4 homes. This is like scientifically proven by me, the scientist, that after you see 4 homes, they all blur in together. It's like you hit a wall mentally at 4 homes. After that, you don't remember anything else. You go to the 5th home, you've forgotten the first one. Never show more than 4 homes. Now, the only time I show more than 4, like 5 or 6, is if we're showing apartment condos and we're in the same building and I'm going to show 2 or 3 units in a building. I'll maybe show 3 or 4, 3 in a building, right? But normally, never show more than 4. If they give you a list of 8, you've got to filter it down to 3 or 4. If for whatever reason there's 6, put it into 2 days. Say, I only have time tomorrow to see 3 or 4 properties. Why don't we go see 4 and we'll fit in the other 2 tomorrow or the next day after that, right? 3 to 4 properties max. This is a little tip that I always used. In my calendar, I use Outlook. You use whatever you want. I blocked off the time. I always gave myself half an hour early in my appointment calendar, viewings with Rick. And then I'd list the 4 properties that I was going to go show Rick. And I would list them viewing 1, viewing 2, viewing 3, viewing 4. And I put the addresses in the address section. The reason I do this is if you've ever had this all started out of necessity because I had one of those BMW with the iDrive, like the original iDrive where you have to spin and turn the thing. So I'd get my clients in my car, like I felt like I was supposed to have my clients in my car, get in there. Okay, let's go to the next property. And I didn't know the neighborhood maybe all that well. So I'd sit there and hang on, H, Y, and it was like, shoot me now. It was embarrassing. I'm flustered. So now I know in my car right now, all the addresses just kind of pop up on my screen. I can touch and navigate. Or if you've got CarPlay or one of those, or just your iPhone on the dash, you open up the calendar, tap the address, and it'll navigate you to the next address. You don't have to be fumbling around with your clients. You can focus on the conversations that you're having with them. Be prepared, be professional. Dress professional. I remember my former broker when I would walk in one day with blue jeans on at the office and he'd go, oh, hey, Pablo, blue jean real estate today? And it's like, the little things kind of stick in your mind, right? Blue jean real estate. What? Blue jean real estate? Why would you say that? Yeah, is this unprofessional? Like, I thought this was kind of a nice look now. It's kind of hip, isn't it? With the blue jeans and oh, geez. So no more blue jeans, right? It was like suits every day. Be professional, dress professional. You might as well dress up. You can never go wrong dressing better. You would hate to underdress and all of a sudden you show up and your client's like full suit and you're in your frumpy wear trying to show a house. It doesn't look cool. You're not trying to be cool. You're trying to be professional. They want to hire a professional and you're getting paid $5, $6, $8, $10, $20,000 to sell them a house. Dress like you're worth that, right? Sorry, rant over. Be early. This will help you be less flustered, be professional, be early. Make sure your batteries are charged for everything. I mean, just get prepared, right? There's nothing worse than showing up and your key that you use to open doors or your iPhone is running out of charge and you're flustered because of it. And it's just the whole showing thing goes bad. You're a salesperson. You need to be 100% focused on getting the sale, helping them buy the property that they need, right? You need to be focused on them, not on your tech and your stuff. Make sure it's all working before you go. When you leave, make sure the home's locked. This is all part of your long-term plan. You want to get on the good side of all the listing agents. If you get on the bad side, oh, there's that Pablo, he always leaves the doors unlocked. Oh, I hate that guy. And then you submit an offer and multiple offers, and it's like, oh, an offer from Pablo, forget that, right? You want to get on the good side. You never know when you're going to need it. If there's an alarm at the house, make sure you know about how to use alarms. When I say like the door is locked, realtors, remember I said there's like two things you really got to do: lock and unlock doors and alarms, and turn the lights on and off. So make sure the lights are off if they should be. Make sure the doors are locked if they should be. That means when you lock a door, you check to make sure it's locked. And a lot of those, they have like the European locks. You have to lift up first before you can lock. Learn how they work, right? Do some Googling about locks if you have to. Make sure the doors are locked. And of course, last one here is just research some comparables. I used to do this all the time before going to a property with a buyer. If I knew that, again, I'm working with hot, qualified buyers, and we're going to go out and see a house that I know they're going to love, I will pull up the recent sales in that area. Because when they're there, they might go, you know what? We really like this house. What do you think about the price? Oh, I don't know. I'll go back to the office. No. Well, I do know that 3 doors down, that 2-story, which is very similar to this one, that sold for $860 last year. And the market has gone up about 5% since then. This one's listed at $872. It's actually a pretty good buy. Maybe if we can get it to that price or lower, we can actually get a purchase here. What do you think? Right? Ooh, that sounds good. So now you're sounding like a professional because you did some homework and research. Remind the clients about their needs in the initial meeting. When people have the initial meeting with you, they've got an ideal picture in mind of what house they want to buy, right? They usually have some kind of a general idea or a fictitious house that they've got their needs, they've got their priorities. Then they get to a house, and quite often they're looking around and going, ooh, I don't like this house for some reason, right? Or they get into a house and they say, I love this house, and it's just not really the right fit for them. This is where you're going to remind them about the needs that they had in the initial meeting. Sometimes I get clients who have a low budget, but they want everything. Has anybody had a client that can't afford anything but wants everything, right? Yes, we've had that. So sometimes I have to go, remember the price point that we set in the initial meeting. Did you want to increase your price point and then we could get something a little bit, fancier? Or should we get something like this? And then if you ever get a bonus at work, you can renovate it to the taste that you want, right? Yeah, okay. So you're reminding them about that initial meeting. It just shows that you were listening and that you're working on their behalf. No personal opinions. This has got to be my biggest pet peeve, you guys. Please stop. When you're at the house, no comments. Oh, the closets are small in here. Oh man, this deck is kind of creaky and gross. Ooh, it's an east-facing backyard. You'd never get any sun. Stop the opinions. There's a buyer for every single house. This might be their dream home, and you're talking them out of it. Don't do it, okay? Get your opinions right out of it, okay? If they ask you, what's your opinion? Well, it's not my house. I'm more of a south backyard person instead of an east backyard, but that's just me. If you want to give your opinion, that's fine, but you don't walk around freely offering up your opinion on the house, okay? Let the buyers view the home. Focus on the long-term value over the price. A lot of buyers, they really just want to get the best price, and usually there's one person more emotionally connected to the home and one person who's less emotionally connected to the home. And the less emotionally connected wants to get a deal, right? It's like, oh, it's a buyer's market now. I want to get a low price, right? And remind them of, I always say, are you going to sell the home in the next year or two? And if so, we got to really be sharp on the price, because otherwise it's going to be hard to flip this in a year or two. No, I'm going to be here for 5 or 10 years. great. You know what? In 5 or 10 years, that extra $3, $4, $5,000 that, whether or not we can get it off here at this initial stage isn't going to have an impact. What's more important is finding a home that you really love and that you will enjoy every day being in this home. So either we can find something that's really cheap or try and kind of get to the bottom line pricing on things, or we can find a home that you really love. And usually when you refocus them on that, that will help them get to that stage. Okay. And lastly, ask them to write an offer. Like this is sales, right? So when I'm in a house with people and I see that they're like, oh yeah, should we write an offer on the property, right? Should we write an offer? And ask them about that, because that's what we do. We're salespeople. We got to have the close, right? So ask them to write an offer. And they do. They write an offer. It's not unusual to be. And this is like the happiest moment in any agent's day is when someone says, yes, we want to write an offer. We're ready. We love it. Let's sit down and write an offer, or let's get together. Let's talk about it. Let's write an offer. We want to write an offer. That's an exciting moment for every agent. I love that time still. So things to remember here, make sure that you're accurate, okay? The goods included. I have purchased appliances for my clients in the past. I'm always one who will accept responsibility for my own actions. So I had one of my very first buyer deals. It was an apartment, and I missed putting the stove in the goods included. It was in the listing. I didn't put it in the offer. And that realtor, he just stuck it to me at the end. He's like, well, no, you must have missed the stove. He was right after we waived conditions, that turkey, right after we waived conditions. He said, so did you mean to exclude the stove? I was like, oh, what do you mean? I said, it's in there. He said, no, it's not. It's not in the contract. I said, what do you mean it's not? Come on. Like, of course we want the stove. It was in there with all the other appliances, right? Nope. So, I paid $400. I'll never forget it. I paid $400 for a used stove that was in that apartment. You'll never make those mistakes again, right? But always look at the accuracy of the contract. Phone up the other agent, ask if there's any other offers, and find out if there's anything really important to the seller. So is the closing date more important? Are the terms in the offer more important, or is the price really important? Which is most important to the seller? See if you can get some information. There's always going to be the price and terms in a contract. Usually one is more important than the other. And then I always set the expectations with the buyer. So, if you've got a property that we're writing an offer on and it's a $500,000 property and your buyers want to write an offer for $400,000, what do you do? Do you just say, no, it's unrealistic and you're never going to get it for that? Or do you say, sure, let's just write it at 400 and see what happens? There's a lot of different ways that you can play that. I'll tell you what I do. I say, great. So you want to offer 400 on 500. That's fine. What specifically makes you want to offer that price? Well, I think that in this market and the COVID and this and that, I think people need to sell their houses and there's not a lot of buyers, and they'll come up with all the real estate knowledge that they've gained over the years and years and years of not being in real estate. And they'll give you their accurate reason as to why they just want to get a deal, right? Of course, everybody wants to get a deal. So people want a low offer, no problem. So I'll say, great, let's make that offer. However, let's look at some of the repercussions of making an offer like that. We're either going to get a counter offer, which would be great, right? Maybe they counter offer at a little bit of a lower price, or they're going to accept that, not likely, right? Or the third option is that they're going to just reject it altogether. Now, if they see us coming in with an offer that's too low, they may actually not want to work with us as buyers at all, and we may not have the opportunity to negotiate any of the price. So then I just ask, what is the price that you would be willing to go to? What's the maximum price? Where do you want to end up on this? Well, we probably wouldn't go higher than 460. So great. So you know what? This is how most people think in negotiations, right? List price, offer price. Where are we going to meet? In the middle, right? And more often than not, it does. So when you make an offer as a buyer, you're thinking middle. The seller is thinking you're way out to lunch. We're not going to even work with that. Okay. Seller's thinking I'm going to get within 3 to 5% of my asking price, right? Statistically. So you're thinking you're going to get 50% off there. And it's not going to happen, right? Most likely it's not going to happen. But you can say, look, we can try that. Or what I'd recommend, make your offer closer, much closer to where you want to end up, and then don't negotiate as far. Because if we were to offer, say, 450 on the property instead, and 450 compared to 500, we're kind of in the ballpark, aren't we? And I mean, in my market, we're in the ballpark, trust me. You might be like, 450, no, we'd be offering 550. It's in 8 offers, right? Welcome to Toronto. But so in our market, so if you're 500 and there's an offer for 450, the seller is now thinking, I'm going to end up somewhere maybe in the middle because it's like kind of close, right? So I might end up at 475, 480. We're thinking we're going to be at 460, right? So they come down and we go up a little bit. They come down, we go up a little bit, and then we play hardball and we maybe get it to the 460, maybe 465 range. That's a better negotiation than starting at 400 and not even coming to the table at the right price, right? So where you start is really important. Set the expectations with the buyer as to how that negotiation may end up. Where do you think it may end up? Okay. And submit an offer. When you submit an offer to another agent, please offer it simply. Okay. As someone who receives dozens and dozens of offers probably about a dozen offers a month that I deal with, what I really prefer and what I appreciate as a selling agent is a simple offer. Pablo, please see attached offer. Thank you. Wonderful. I can read the offer. I got the terms, the price. What I don't want is, here's the offer. Here's a long story about why it's so low. Here's what we think is going to happen statistically. Here's an article about how COVID's spreading in Italy. And here's comparables in the community for you. I'm like, I'm a realtor too. You know, I see the news. I also have the statistics on my computer. And I also did the comparables when we listed the property. I know all these things. I don't need to be educated on what's happening and what's going on. What I need is an offer that we can negotiate. And we keep it simple. Keep the BS out of it. Submit the offer. Thank them. That's it. Done. Okay. Submit the offer. Keep it simple. Here's some tips on negotiating. Number 1, keep your emotions completely out of the negotiation. Never, ever, ever say things like, oh, my client's never going to go for that. Oh, or what? That's way too low. Or that your client is out to lunch. Or I'm insulted that you would even bring me this offer, or anything. Just keep your emotions right out of it. If you've got another agent, I mean, there's 4 different personality styles at least out there, maybe a 5th. There's at least 4 different personality styles out there. You're going to be dealing with agents that you love dealing with, and you're going to deal with agents who walk all over you and just hate them. And it's going to happen in real estate where you're going to have all these different agents that you work with. Keep your emotions out of it. If you're frustrated, don't let them see it. Just be professional, be calm, and keep submitting your counter offers, okay? No opinions. So, well, in my opinion, the price is too high. So that's why we're making this offer. In my opinion, your seller should have done the bathroom. In my opinion, no. Keep your opinions and emotions out of it. Just stick to the facts. Here's the offer. They counter offer, and maybe they've got a long-winded counter offer. Well, my client said that this and this and this, and my client said the blah, blah, blah. Thank you very much. I'll present that to my client. At this point, as far as the negotiation, if you want the simplest, it's I'm taking the counter offer, I'm presenting it to my clients. They're going to say they want to do this. I'm going to present the facts back. My client said the counter offer is this, and that's it. Right? No BS. Don't put any sugar on that story. Just leave it. Okay? Sugar-free. Use the phone for negotiating. I know it's easy to text negotiate, the little price text back and forth. It's not as effective. So use the phone. My phone calls are very simple. Hi, Susan, thanks for the offer. My client has a counter offer. We do counter offers verbally here. I know you can do them, or it might be just, hi, Susan, I just sent you a counter offer. Please have a look and let me know. Thanks. Like, it can be very, very simple messages back and forth. We do verbal negotiations, and then we write it in writing at the end as we finalize the contract. And it'll be simple. My client has countered back at 450. Let me know, and the possession date is this, and we just counter back verbally. Now, the log is an important aspect of maintaining sanity as well. I have a poor short-term memory, okay, as one of my little quirks. People, I'm one of those people that will meet at a party. You'll say your name is Jim, and 3 seconds later, it's gone out of my head. I can't remember your name at all, right? So in negotiating, I created a negotiation log, and this helped me as well because sometimes I would have 2 properties that I'm writing offers on, or I receive multiple offers on one of my listings, and I use this negotiation log. And this is what it looks like. This has saved my butt numerous times, and I print this out for every single deal, and I write out all this information. I do this every time religiously. Not only does it help me remember what's going on, but it gives me a written log of everything that was said and done during that negotiation, so that if I ever have to refer back and I can say, you know what, remember we went to 460, you went to 485, and we said yes, but we're going to include the patio furniture. And I had it written in my notes that we talked about that. Oh, yeah, I guess we did talk about that, right? So I write down not only the client's names and the realtor contact information, so that if I'm out at dinner and I don't have that information, I just keep that in my pocket, a negotiation log, and I write down the date of the offer and the address, and I write down the list price, the offer price, and with all the back and forths, the closing dates, and any notes like inclusions. And I've got a little checklist, especially for my admin, to make sure that I did the right things. This is going to be in the downloads as well. I use this for every single one. If you have questions about this or how I use it, feel free to ask me later, okay? So the conditions and closing, we're wrapping up here. During the condition period or contingency period, whatever you have, your conditional sale period, constant communication is going to be critical. Don't leave those clients hanging during that time. I have a process in writing with my staff where my staff is doing communications back and forth and arranging things, so I don't have to do all those kind of technical communications. Again, keep your emotions out of it. And I was thinking about this earlier today, the difference between successful realtors and unsuccessful realtors. And one of the biggest distinctions I have to say is the level of mental toughness that top agents have. They have the ability to keep their emotions very low. When I get a conditional sale, and no matter how bad I want or need it, I have to be 100% willing to understand that it may collapse, because deals collapse. This is real estate, and it's an emotional roller coaster. So you're either doing things for your own mindset to keep yourself strong and keep yourself physically and mentally fit, or you're going to get hit with emotions and it's going to sideline you for months while you try and recover. You don't want that, okay? Understand that you may lose that deal, but you're going to fight to keep it together. But if it does collapse, it's okay. Move on, okay? Don't let any kind of conditional sale distract you from everything else that you've got to do during the week. We all know we have to prospect. We need to generate new business. If you are hung up on a deal and you've got, all these conditions and the home inspection items, and they need this and they need that. And I've heard of realtors going and cleaning houses, and oh my gosh, it just gives me a headache thinking about it. All the little things. Stay out of those things, you guys. Like, yes, you want to get that deal firmed up and you want to do what's right for your client, but you still have other work that you've got to do. You can't just let this occupy everything that you're doing to get it pulled together. Now, if you like forms, I've got forms for you. So if you want to download forms, I've got all of the 5 forms that we showed today in Agent Upgrade, all available for download. It's agentupgrade.ca/downloads. You can also, I put a direct link on the main page, so agentupgrade.ca. And then you can go to the download section. You can download all these scripts and the negotiation log and the buyer information form. I've got a few bonus items for you, and then we'll wrap it up for the day. I'm excited about these because these are kind of like the money-making techniques at the very end. Number 1, this is something that really saved my butt when I started to work with a lot of buyers. Schedule viewing times. Now, most agents will say, well, I can just show you a property anytime. Do you want to go out at, somebody says, I'll go, can we go tomorrow at 10 a.m.? Sure, no problem. 10 a.m. sounds good. Well, what was normally 10 a.m. in your schedule? Oh, it was supposed to be, I'm supposed to prospect at this time. A, I don't really want to prospect. And B, I want to work with this buyer, right? Now, this reactionary kind of thing of just going anytime, I simply did this. I had time in my calendar every single day, Monday to Friday, 2 o'clock or 6 o'clock. Those were my showing times. And it came off so naturally. People would say, can we go see this property tomorrow morning at 10? I go, let me just look at my calendar. I know. Let me look at my calendar. You know what? 10 o'clock doesn't work for me. I could do 2 o'clock or 6 o'clock tomorrow. Oh, really? Can you do morning at all? Yes, I've got Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. Would you like to do Saturday morning at 10 o'clock? Oh, could you do Sunday? I'm off on Sunday because that's my family day. So I'm off on Sunday, unless there's an offer to be written, of course, and I'm going to absolutely deal with that. But there's no showings on Sunday. Oh, yeah, I understand that. What about Friday morning? No, Friday morning doesn't work. I can do 2 o'clock or 6 o'clock. Okay, actually 6 o'clock on Friday would work. Bam. They'll always make it work. Trust me. Okay. Now, why did I do 2 o'clock and 6 o'clock? 2 o'clock was after lead follow-up time. I had a break, like not a break in my schedule, but I had time there. So I'd book off from 2 o'clock to 3:30 for showings. And then from 3:30 till 6, I was at home with my family. The kids would get home from school, spend some time with my family. And then at 6 o'clock in Calgary, rush hour is really kind of dwindling after 6 o'clock. So I know I'm not going to be fighting rush hour traffic to get to and do showings. So schedule showing times. That'll save you hundreds of hours of time and keep you on your schedule. This is an advanced technique. I love this one though. So if you go through that buyer consultation and you work with these buyers and you remember you ask all those questions and you got the detailed criteria and everything. If you want to, like, you think about how many buyers do you need to work with to make a good living as a realtor? If you sold 20 buyers in a year, would that be a good income? I mean, if it was 10 grand each, that's $200,000. Would that be a good income plus whatever you sold? That'd be a great income, right? So 20 buyer sales, that's 20 buyers who actually purchase a home. I know I'm getting obvious here. That's not a lot. It's not a lot of people. But if you can provide absolutely exceptional service to those 20 people, imagine how that's going to explode with referrals and repeat business. So this is an advanced technique, and this is taught to me by my coach, and I started doing this with my top clients. So you've got a hot buyer. They know what they want. The criteria is very simple to do. You do not put them on a drip search, like one of those MLS campaign searches. You put yourself on the campaign search. The properties come to you. You filter and monitor, and then you pick up the phone. Susan, it's Pablo calling, your realtor. Yeah, I'm doing great, thanks. Hey, guess what? Good news. A new property just came on the market. I think it fits your criteria really well, and I'd like to show it to you. Are you available at 2 o'clock or 6 o'clock? And I would, I mean, that's exceptional service, right? And they go, well, where is it? You know what? It's in Haysboro. It's in the community that you really wanted, and it just came on the market. I'd love to show it to you. Are you available tonight? And I know it's going to be a great property because I know what they want, and I didn't put them on a drip search. It's not lazy. It gives me an opportunity to call my clients even more, and that's exceptional service. Next step, I love this one too. Don't print this is, when you're showing houses to a buyer, and usually you bring like some kind of form of sheets for yourself so that you know about the properties. And then you print for your clients, either the MLS view, like the agent view or the client view or something. And then sometimes people throw in statistics and neighborhood things and, all kind of like a binder. And this, I saw one agent, they've got it all Surloxed, and it's like a presentation every time they went to see properties, right? Bring nothing for them, okay? And you can actually bring nothing other than, so for myself, here's what I had. I had one sheet of paper with 3 or 4 properties on it, had the address, it was like a simple list view, had the address, had any showing instructions, like you got the lock boxes over here, the alarm code is this, had the price of the home. That's it. My client gets nothing. Why do I do that? First of all, I want the client to see the home unencumbered. I don't want the client walking into the home with a sheet of paper, looking at it going, oh, property taxes are $5,000 here. Oh my gosh. Oh, and this one has condo fees of this, and it's a 4-bedroom no. I want them looking at the house and seeing if they could actually live there. That's the most important thing, right? Can you actually live in this? Do you like this house? And they would say something like, well, what are the property taxes for the home? Say, well, property taxes are all going to be in line with homes of similar values. We can look up the property taxes. Is there a specific number for property taxes that you want to avoid, or is it just you want to make sure they're within a range? Oh yeah, as long as they're within like $4 or $5 grand a year. Okay, well, given this price range is similar to other ones that are in that 4,000 to 5,000, it's going to be in that ballpark somewhere. We'll find out later, right? And then if they say something like, is the hot tub included in the purchase of this home? Great question, right? People ask this all the time. Is the hot tub included in the home? And I would say simply, the hot tub may or may not be included. If you were to write an offer on this home, would you want to include the hot tub or not? And they'll say, well, we would want to include it. Great. Well, I'll make sure that if we write an offer on this property, I will include the hot tub, right? You don't need any more information to mess up the whole sales process. And especially the analyticals like me, we get into the minutia of stuff. And it's like, no. Just look at the overall. This is a sales process. Is this a home that they could see themselves buying? Previewing properties is really critical especially if you're working in a certain area and you're working with buyers, a lot of buyers. You want to preview similar homes in the area because that's going to give you experience, especially if you're open housing. You're going to be able to say, does this home work for you? And they say, well, no, this isn't exactly what we're looking for. And then you say, what are you looking for? Well, we're looking actually for a 2-story with more character. Oh, have you seen the house over on 11th Avenue? It's so cute. It's a 2-story and it's got that green trim around it. Yeah, we did see that one. I thought that was sold already. No, it's not sold. In fact, it came on a week ago. There was a conditional sale and it just came off. I saw it yesterday. It's really beautiful. Do you want to see it? Right? So now previewing homes is going to help you with that initial buyer script, right? And converting. So become an expert in the area. Understand the 4 personality styles. I've got a whole module on understanding personality styles, but there's 4 distinct personality styles. And understanding those is going to elevate your level of service with the buyer. If you get a driver style buyer who's like quick decisions, low in emotion, wants the facts and only the facts, you have to present that way. You get a expressive buyer, you have to pump up the energy a little bit or else you're going to bring them down, right? And my favorite script in the world, next. You have to be willing to say no. You have to be willing to fire clients. And if somebody's not going to be pre-qualified or if they're not willing to give you information, you don't want to be working with somebody like that. So you have to be able to say next, move on, understand you're going to lose some. You're looking for only the 20 or so that are going to accept what you want to provide as far as service and buy a home with you. And I'll leave you with my absolute favorite quote in the buyer's agent world, which is this: the more homes you show, the lower their confidence will be in you. So as an agent, your job is what? And if you say turning on the lights and locking the doors, that's not your job. Your job is to help someone find a home. But if you're not actually doing anything to help them find the home, then what's your purpose? Why do I need you as an agent when I could lock and unlock doors myself if I could. So I just need somebody to open the doors. No. You need somebody who's going to guide you through the process. So hopefully what I've showed you here enables you to think differently about how you're working with buyers, and hopefully that you took away even like 2 or 3 small tips that you can use to make your buyer work more efficient, and you can sell more homes and be much more successful as COVID lifts. So if you like this, please share. You can find a couple of the latest videos will be on YouTube. And then we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on all the social media things now, thanks to Helen. We're really up in our game. And May 21st is the next one. And I know it says Calgary, Alberta. That's because we used to do these live in like a presentation room. Now we aren't doing them live, obviously, because of the lockdown. But when we can, we will. But the next one's going to be open houses. It's going to be May 21st. If you or anyone is looking for when are the next things, agentupgrade.ca, we've got everything on there. So I'll open the floor to any questions if there are any. And we'll stop the screen share.
Pablo?
Yes, Cheryl.
So I'm very happy because I'm doing a lot of video appointments right now.
Okay, good.
And so what I would ask you is, would you actually send them out the buyer package in the mail, or will you take it with you?
Do I send out the buyer package in the mail, or would I take it with me? Normally, of course, I'm going to be meeting with them at a table somewhere, whether it's a coffee shop or an office. But in today's, to adapt to today, I think I would do a Zoom call, and I would DocuSign the contract to them, the buyer contract.
before you even show one property?
No, if I would show the one property first. I'd just do a physical, like a pre-qual on the phone first, like the basic questions. Are you working with another agent? Or you prefer to work directly with the listing agent? And I'd show them a property first. Then when I'm at the property, if I'm still showing the property, which I still like to go and show the property, then at that time I will do are you familiar with the techniques that I use in working with buyers like yourself to find a great home? And I would go through the buyer process and schedule an appointment with them at that time. And given times now, I'd say rather than meeting physically, we're going to do a Zoom call. So I'll set up a Zoom call with them and I'll do a screen share maybe with them and I'll go through the MLS search with them. It's actually really nice.
Yeah, it is.
I love all this Zoom stuff. I'd rather do Zoom real estate than physical real estate. Any other questions there? Anybody else have frustrations in working with buyers and they're trying to figure things out?
Pablo.
Yes.
Most of the people these days want to deal directly with the listing agent. They don't see the value working with the buyer agent. How to overcome that?
Yeah. Why do you think that is, Devinder?
I don't know. People want to save commission. I think that's what most of the people tell me. Who want to save one side of commission.
Yeah. Like, that's like saying, I want to go buy my car directly from Ford. I don't want to deal with the salespeople there, right? Why do we not want to deal with salespeople at Ford? Because it's a horrible process and we don't feel like it's even necessary. Like if I could just go online and order my car directly from Ford, I know what I want. Can I just order it? And I don't need to negotiate with them and deal with the slimy people there. It's because they're not providing an exceptional level of service, right? So one of the biggest challenges we have as real estate agents is that we've been really kind of screwing it up. We haven't been providing great service to our clients. And so they're not seeing the value. So agents who have and this would be just an objection handler, but someone who says something like that, I would normally say, man, it sounds like you've had a horrible experience with a real estate agent. Tell me about it. And I'd ask them to tell me what it is that's causing them to think that they would rather work with the listing agent than everyone else, right? Than a real estate agent. And, it's like self-representing yourself in court. It's like this, if you hate lawyers and you think lawyers are stinky and they do a horrible job, you're going to want to self-represent yourself in court and save a whole bunch of money. But what could happen if you self-represent yourself in court? You may not know some of the nuances, some of the rules. You may lose. And if you lose, what's it worth? Right? So you have to be able to manage that and handle that objection, and usually by asking a question. I think it comes down to they may have had a really bad... Now, if people want to work directly with me as a listing agent, great. No problem, right? But if I'm at an open house and someone says, well, I'd prefer to work directly with the listing agent, I don't want to have representation, I just go, wow, ouch. Sounds like you must have been really burned in the past by a real estate agent. Tell me about that. Well, I just don't think I need it. And I think I could save money by going direct. You say, well, I can appreciate that. Now, let me ask you a question. If you were selling your house and you have a real estate agent and that you've engaged a real estate agent to sell the house and that real estate agent has their own buyer, would you expect a discount from that real estate agent? Well, yeah. Like if they have their buyer, I don't want them to double end and make all the money, right? Exactly, right? So you'd want a discount from that agent. So the seller thinks that when a buyer comes unrepresented, they're going to get a windfall of extra cash. The buyer thinks they're going to be able to negotiate more because there's extra cash on the table. Everybody thinks that they're going to be a winner here, but nobody's a winner, right? It's going to sway one way or the other. So if it's just about trying to negotiate a better deal, wouldn't you want someone who negotiates for a living, a top agent? So if you're not able to articulate the strengths of working with a realtor, that's something that you just need to practice. And that's something that needs to be scripted, planned, an objection handler, and you have to be able to write it out, practice it. Cheryl's on the call here today. She does the accountability and role play session on WhatsApp. Say, I want to practice that scenario. I want you to be like at an open house and say that you kind of want to work on your own. And I've got a script that I'm using now, and it's not even a script, it's just an objection handler. And I'm trying to work through those objections with people. Practice it, right?
Some of the agents are also messing it up because it has happened with me quite a bit of time. Listing realtor list the property over price, it doesn't sell, and then they tell people to work with me, then I'll cut down on buyer's side commission or give you discount.
I didn't hear that. It was kind of mumbly. Can you speak up?
I said some of the agents list their properties a little higher than the market value, and it takes longer to sell. And whenever buyer approaches them, most of the agents are telling buyer that if you will work with me, then you don't have to pay buyer side commission. You will save more. And they buy the property, then they go and tell their relatives, and then they go and tell their relatives. So that's how it is spreading.
Yeah, I can appreciate that, Devinder. So just to reedify what you're saying or restate what you're saying is listing agents are saying to buyer's agents, if you work directly with me, you can save the buyer's agent commission. And then I don't know why somebody would want to double-end a deal. It's more liability. And so either they're lying about giving up commissions to be able to close the deal, because why would they want to have the liability of working with both people? Secondly, it's completely unethical. And I know that realtors do things that are unethical, but in the rules of real estate, for you to say to someone, you can get a discount by working directly with me and cutting out the other agent, it's encouraging that agent to not have representation, which is unethical.
Can I jump in, Pablo?
Yeah.
So just to backtrack though, you should have these buyers on a buyer's rep agreement, right? So you got to take that. So if they're not on a buyer brokerage agreement, don't spend any time with them. And if they want to go shop around and work with the listing agents all day long, those are not going to be one of your 20. That's what I'd say. And number two, what I'd say is be a listing agent. I know this is working with buyers, but be a listing agent.
So it is like I've sold some of my sellers' properties, and then they go to they start looking for a house. They go to the builder, salesperson, or the other agents. Everybody tells them the same story. Even builders these days are telling them, work with me, don't bring your realtor, you will save more. I don't know.
I would say, Devinder, to that is upgrade what buyers you're working with. Because if you raise your price point, you won't have that happen to you as much. So I think that could take care of that objection by,
for example, like I know from coaching agents in the Toronto area, there's certain suburbs and communities that are like cutthroat, and they, tend to be like ESL, but there's cutthroat communities that are, people are buying direct and they're cutting out their agent, and there's all kinds of stuff. And yet there's other areas like neighboring communities, and they're getting 5-6% commission all day long. There's no quibbling about the agent that they're working with. They want representation, and they're in the same area. So if you're in an area, Devinder, where you're finding because I don't get any of that. Like 1 out of 50 buyers that I ever talk to ever goes, I want some cash back. I'm going to work directly with the listing agents, all this stuff. I get 1 out of 50, right?
But
so you got to maybe change where you're working, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it also be like the whole purpose of being on this training about, upgrading our approach as buyer's agents? So it really comes down to the education of the buyer before they either walk out their door and are confronted by a builder, another agent who's going to come across that way. If our buyers are educated based on what you just showed us, we go through every single one of those steps, they're going to say, wait a minute, let me think about that. So what you're telling me is this, but I'm already privy to the fact that my agent, Brian, who's an awesome agent, has this whole team, said this. I'm more inclined to believe them because they're looking out for my interests, just like you would,
Going through that process, Brian, that we talked to at the beginning, like of meeting them and going through all that, that's going to establish a deep level of trust that you're working on their behalf, that you're representing them, that you're looking out for them, and that this purchase that they're going to make, you're going to walk them through it, make it easy, but also protect them. And yeah, you're going to get like, oh, buy directly with me and I'll save you a couple grand or something like that. And they're going to go, you know what? It's not worth it. I've got a relationship and I've got a contract with an agent. I've committed to working with an agent, right? It's like we would never list a home without a listing contract, right? Can you imagine? Like, imagine, oh yeah, I'll put it on the MLS. No, we don't need a listing contract. That's okay. We'll just, you'll pay me, right? And then you get cut out? No, it doesn't have, we don't do that. And we don't do that. Maybe it's because we have some upfront costs. Well, I'm going to pay for photography and measure and, marketing or whatever. And so we have this notion that of course you need a listing contract to list home. Why would you ever work with a buyer that doesn't want to work with you? Boggles my mind. Find someone who is willing to work with you and provide exceptional service using your scripts and using the process. They'll never want to leave you. They'll call you out of the blue going, I've had this call so many times. Pablo, we haven't talked in 6 years. We just went to an open house. We loved it. We want to write an offer. And you're our agent. Great.
Can you put up that happy dance slide again?
Yeah, I did the happy dance. That's for sure, right? Those are great. And you don't get that if you're not providing great service.
Pablo?
Yes, Cheryl.
You're getting a lot of your leads in on lead gen. One of the part of the nurturing process is to put them in front of listings. So how do you handle that if you're saying don't give them listings? If they've been getting them for 2 years even?
Well, no part of my talk today talked about nurturing people. So the short answer to that is I don't nurture people. I don't do long-term drips with people. I will, like past clients, I put them on a market report once a month and they get market reports and things like that. Mm-hmm. But I don't put people on these long-term drips and like, if you ever see something that comes up, call me.
Because you do primarily, like you said, warm and hot.
Yeah.
If you said don't chase cold.
Yeah.
Basically. So what do you do with cold, which I'm assuming that's what Cheryl's talking about, because yes, they clicked on something. It's a lead being generated somewhere, but you have no rapport with them. That's a cold lead, looky-loo, So what do you do in those cases?
Nothing.
You don't
I don't even think about it. I don't spend time building a campaign. I don't spend any time thinking about it. I either delete it or leave it there and just let it be. But the biggest issue you can have is you get these notifications. Oh, such and such was on your site and looked at a property, and you're like, ooh, they're looking at my property. I turn all those off. And so I work right away to convert them to a hot lead or a warm lead, right? Like you want them converted or not. And if they're not converted, I would rather, and Cheryl, we've had this talk a couple times where we talked about lead generation and determining what a lead, the definition of a lead. My definition of a lead is the hot and warm people. And I would rather work with, let me just mute Devinder here. I would rather work with 5 or 6 absolutely great leads than 500 maybes down the road. So I just focus on the ones that are hot and warm. Everyone else, maybe they're on some kind of automatic campaign. Maybe they're on, I have no idea. I leave them. So if I can't convert them, I don't want them.
Just to ask another, I know you said leave them, you don't want them, but because we have such a robust system as far as KV Core, the AI, the nurturing, I would be remiss because I'm not, as big and professional and have like my method down like you do. So to forego utilizing my KV Core and all that AI and everything to nurture, like Cheryl's saying, because I'm restarting in a whole new market. Mm-hmm. So I have to nurture complete cold because I don't have that warm right now.
Well, Brian, let me ask you this, and this goes back to the lead generation side of things. So how many prospective buyers or sellers are you talking to every day, and are you logging that?
No, I'm not.
Yeah. So when I got started in real estate, I needed to find buyers and sellers. And it was like a need, not a want. And I was also really driven and motivated. I'm like, I'm going to make it. I'm going to do it. And there was no nurture drip in my vocabulary. It was, I am looking for people who need to buy or sell a home now. And I looked everywhere. Like I said at the beginning, the great news is everyone's a potential client. The bad thing is everyone's a potential client. So you could have a database with thousands of people in it. And I get it that there's nurturing campaigns, and just as a reminder, this is not really an EXP thing. It's kind of for all agents of all types of brokerages. So not everybody here is going to have KV Core or anything like that. But there's all kinds of drip campaigns, there's drip things. I spent, like Simone and I will attest, we spent 5 or 6 days a week doing open houses. And in between the open houses, we'd door knock. And in between the door knocking, we'd do networking events. We were out talking to people every single day and tracking how many people we talked to every single day. So we track every open house. We had a tracking form. We track every door knocking that we did. We track everything. And we talk to, I always say in real estate, your income is directly proportionate to the number of people you talk to every day. If you talk to 1 or 2 people a day, I can pretty much tell you what your paychecks are. If you are like consistently talking to 30 to 50 people a day, I can pretty much count on what your paycheck's going to be. And if you've relied on, and I get, like, the internet's a wonderful thing. It really is. It's the blessing and the curse of real estate. There's so many great things that you can do with social media, with the web, with technology. We're doing all this. I love it. I love technology. It's like my favorite thing. How do I sell? Look at every sales book. It's like you pick up the phone, you call people, you provide exceptional service, you put them through a system, build a routine, you practice, you role play, you scripts. That's sales. So, if you want to do the online drippy lead nurturing kind of stuff, great. I can't recommend that as a way that you're going to sustain a reasonable income, especially at the beginning. I think you got to go out and talk to people.
How many people we should be talking to every day or every week on average?
Yeah, so I went over this in the lead gen, but if you have 0 listings and you have 0 active hot or warm buyers, the question then becomes, what are you doing today? You're not taking care of your listing because you don't have any. You don't have any buyers that you're showing properties to, right? So what are you doing today? You've got, say you're going to work 8 hours a day, say, what are you doing for those 8 hours? You should be out talking to people for 8 hours a day until you get a client. And then once you get a client, throttle it back to 6 hours a day. And you should be talking to as many people as you can. I mean, 50, 60, 100 people a day. Figure out how you can talk to people.
Yeah, now, I think that, can I jump in, yep. Pablo? That when you have, when you're just starting, it's exhausting as well. So mm-hmm. there's a level of pacing. The way that we tackled it once we got out of all those open houses was telephone prospecting. I would just set aside, say, 3 hours, which is a lot. That's a lot of time. Yeah. And I would have 50 minutes on, 10 minutes off. 50 minutes on, meaning on the phones, and there's systems behind all that as well. But if you could actually stick to that and be 75% on, in the whole week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 3 hours, 50 minutes on, 10 minutes off, and then back at it, you will make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yep.
You will do 20, 30, 40, 70 deals a year. Totally. With just that. But you have to be focused work. Or the other option is to spread it over 8 hours and do the work that you should have just done in 3 50-minute sessions.
So you're talking about calling. So would that be considered a cold form of prospecting versus what Pablo's saying is like belly to belly, face to face? Right now we can't do that. So how do you target warm and hot, like you're saying, Pablo, when right now, because of our shutdown here, everything is cold unless you're getting them on Zoom in some way, but still right now I'm new in this area. Yeah. So we moved to this area and then shut down. So I couldn't really be out there door knocking. My goal was to do like what Mark's doing, interviewing people and, being out there in the neighborhood businesses. And then all of a sudden everything shut down.
Yeah. So that, that's a long conversation, Brian, that maybe we'll take offline. I'll give you this short answer, which is it's active versus passive prospecting. So active prospecting is where you're out there trying to get prospects, door knocking, cold calls, et cetera. You're active. Passive is where you put something out like an advertisement of some sort and you hope that people call. In active prospecting, I'll tell you, the other day, I got a ring on the doorbell and somebody rang the doorbell and then they took like 10 steps back and I answered the door and it was like a window washer. And then a few days later, a ding dong, took a few steps back and it's somebody aerating the lawns, right? There's still people door knocking and those guys were doing tremendous business. Like the aerator guy got my neighbors on both sides. He didn't get me, but he got the neighbor on both sides, right? So there is still door knocking going on and we're still considered an essential service. So you can do that, okay? And it's about having conversations with people. Maybe they're not ready right now, but having those conversations with people about what they're going to do once COVID's over, once the lockdown's over, what's going to happen with their house. Are they planning a change? So I would say we can take that offline and we can certainly have a call about that, Brian, but there's active versus passive prospecting. And I'm a much bigger fan of active prospecting than passive. And I'm just looking at the time. It's 2:45 and I've got a viewing to go to. So I'm going to go because I still have to do real estate. I'm going to leave Simone here though, if that's all right, Simone. And she can answer a question or two. I'm just going to make you, Simone, the co-host.
Just turn off is there any other questions before we wrap up?
No, thank you for your time. Okay.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks, Pablo,
I'm
for
going to go meet
doing
a pre-qualified buyer right now. I'm going to put my words into action.
I have the buyer, but problem I'm scared to go show the property.
Go get them. Okay, bye guys.
Bye.